So, dann
Okay.
herzlich willkommen bei uns hier im Cluster. Die Bühne ist für dich frei, Adrian.
Deutsch, Englisch?
So wie du magst.
Okay. Geht's? Okay, then let's do it in English because all my research is in English and my writing, my reading. So otherwise, if I will hold it in German, then I will use a lot of English words, and that sometimes is not so nice. So yeah, today I will be presenting my third paper of my PhD. I will quickly quickly mention the first two. The third slide will quickly mention the first two. It is about business incubators and how if they facilitate knowledge exchanges between their tenants and between external stakeholders, how they can get value out of facilitating these exchanges. First, quickly, what is my PhD about? So I'm doing a cumulative paper-based PhD. That means I'm writing 4 different research articles. It's generally on the idea of open innovation. On the left side here, we see a typical closed innovation model. Keep in mind that this is from a 2006 book from Henry Chesper, Wim van Haverbeek, and Joel West. And back then, 1990s, 1980s, the innovation funnel was more or less closed. It all happened internally in one organization. On the right side, we see this opening up of the innovation funnel that allows for knowledge exchanges across organizational borders to outside actors, but also implementing outside generated ideas within the own organization. So it's opening up the organization funnel to also allow for other voices than only the internal R&D. There has been a lot of discussion on this paradox between, yes, this open innovation creates value, but does it also, can the different actors also capture value? What kind of value do they capture? And that's where my PhD comes in. So I focus on open innovation and value capture. Quickly, these are the 3 articles. First article was a literature review recently published in Industrial Marketing Management, where we look at what has empirical research done so far when it comes to value capture and open innovation. And we provide a few guidances for future research. Second article was with data on entrepreneurial processes. We had retrospective data, so data that was collected at one time point, and then we had monthly time points of these entrepreneurial activities and what kind of activities they engaged in. These sometimes solo entrepreneurs, sometimes 2, 3, 4 people team entrepreneurs. And I looked at if they engage with external actors, are they faster in reaching their milestones? And now the third paper, where I look at business incubators. Shortly about the background. So business incubators, in recent years, there has been a growing focus on business incubators as influential stakeholders in regional innovation processes. Now, they can be generally defined as a shared office space facility that seeks to provide its incubatees, portfolio, client, or tenant companies with a strategic value-adding intervention system, meaning the business incubation, of monitoring and business assistant. Basically, they serve as hubs of innovation and collaboration and provide essential resources to their entrepreneurs, thereby promoting their progress and increasing their chances of success. Now, while business incubators do not operate in isolation from regional constraints, research has demonstrated that they contribute to regional development and help cultivate entrepreneurial ecosystems. A central feature of today's generation of business incubators, is the exploitation of network effects. They provide their tenants with preferential access to potential customers, suppliers, technology partners, and investors. Some authors go even as far as describing business incubators as a network of individuals and organizations. So thereby they occupy the role of innovation intermediaries or brokers and are interesting to study from an open innovation perspective. The research gap, there we go, next page. Basically, I identified 2 gaps in the existing research on business incubators. First, in light of these networking services that I just mentioned that business incubators promote heavily nowadays, existing research focuses primarily on case study insights, and it remains unclear whether the promotion of networking services contributes to business incubator value capture. Second, we know that business incubators do not operate unaffected from regional constraints, but the specific mechanisms through which they are affected by regional characteristics are unclear. That's why we ask ourselves, to what extent do internal and external openness and the interplay between external openness and regional knowledge capacities influence business incubator value capture? Shortly on the theoretic reasonings. So there are three components here: business incubator value capture, openness, and regional knowledge levels. First, value capture. Literature on business incubators has not yet established definitive indicators for assessing their performance. However, researchers have argued that evaluating the performance of a business incubator should involve measuring its contribution to tenant growth and success. This lends, both from a conceptual and theoretic perspective, a reason to measure business incubator performance based on the progress of business incubator tenant firms. Now, how can we combine the business incubator contribution to tenant progress with business incubator value capture? First off, while contribution to tenant progress may not be directly economic returns for the business incubator, the value capture concept extends beyond traditional economic indicators to include also non-economic dimensions, such as technological, marketing knowledge, patents granted, and innovation quality. These are all things that you can capture from an open innovation process. Second, successful contributions to tenant progress enhances the visibility of a business incubator, which increases, and this increased visibility not only attracts promising new tenants, but also facilitates the securing of additional funding for the business incubator and enables their continued existence. Third, most business incubators have the specific goal to contribute to tenant progress, viewing it as a key metric of their performance. For instance, empirical research has measured business incubator performance by examining the tangible contributions of business incubators to tenant growth and profitability. Therefore, when focusing on business incubator or the contribution of business incubators on tenant progress, it is implicitly linked also to their value capture. Talking about openness. So the open innovation framework argues that firms, as I quickly mentioned at the beginning, firms should combine internal and external resources or knowledge to advance innovation processes. Through business incubators' role as innovation intermediaries or brokers, they match internal entrepreneurs internally first among themselves, but also to external actors, thereby facilitating knowledge and resource exchanges between these two groups of actors. Now, given the inherent resource scarcity in entrepreneurial endeavors, entrepreneurs need to engage in open innovation to complement internal resources with external knowledge. There are a range of positive effects associated with entrepreneurs forming informal and formal connections, such as overcoming resource constraints, access to a broader pool of valuable resources and knowledge. It facilitates learning and exploitation effects, and it improves their innovativeness and competitive positioning. Additionally, research has shown that organizations can create an environment that promotes internal and external knowledge sharing, and there are a range of benefits for organizations in doing so, in creating an internal and external open environment. This is why we argue that internal, hypothesis 1A, internal openness, and hypothesis 1B, external openness, positively influences or is positively associated with a higher business incubator contribution to tenant progress. Coming to the regional knowledge capacities. In recent years, researchers in the field of business incubators have started to tackle how business incubators' regional context matters for their performance. This research, 1 second. Ja? Braucht noch 20 Minuten.
Ja, nee, ich muss jetzt weg, aber so generell mal.
Ja, ich weiß, auch wenn du dein Meeting hältst.
Ich höre das für mich genau sehr laut eigentlich.
Sorry for the interruption. Yeah. This research has demonstrated that beyond business incubator characteristics, regional industry characteristics and the degree of urbanization influences business incubator outcomes. So business incubator outcomes are not unaffected by the regional constraints in which they operate. The underlying argument suggests that spatial proximity facilitates learning activities through face-to-face interactions, a shared culture, and regional institutions that govern rules and conventions. There are two core regional characteristics that have been shown to be beneficial for innovation activity. and that are the availability and funding of public and private research facilities. We will be looking at taking arguments from knowledge spillover theory of entrepreneurship that considers entrepreneurship as a mechanism of capitalizing on regional knowledge spillovers. These knowledge spillovers occur due to the creation and simultaneous lack of appropriation of new knowledge by established institutions. Now, because recognizing entrepreneurial opportunities is at the core of entrepreneurship, public and private research facilities create such opportunities without appropriating their full benefits. Because knowledge spillovers are to some degree regionally bounded, we argue that the positive association between external openness and business incubators' contribution to tenant progress is more pronounced or is stronger in the context of more public or more private knowledge. So these are interaction effects. The regional knowledge levels moderate the effect of external openness on business incubator value capture. And this is the conceptual model. Here you see that internal openness and external openness both hypothesize a direct effect. And for the knowledge, public knowledge, private knowledge, we hypothesize a moderation effect on the relationship between external openness and value capture. Talking about data. So how did we collect the data to test these ideas? We went through a rigorous process of constructing a questionnaire based on existing literature and 5 qualitative interviews, plus also 7 questionnaire pre-tests. How did we construct the target population to send out these questionnaires? This was done through a collaborative work with my research assistant. She did most of the work. Luckily, it was a long process. We always combined Google searches with keywords of how these business incubators are typically called, how they call themselves: incubators, accelerators, startup hub, Gründerzentrum. And we always looked for these keywords at the NUTS 3 level. So Germany is NUTS 3 level is just a geographic location of 401 regions in Germany. Additionally, we relied on lists of interactive maps or lists of business incubators, and also specifically looked at companies in the German stock market index, in the DAX or MDAX, if they were running business incubators, to also identify this maybe smaller sample. Yeah. The data collection, we sent out 3 individualized emails between August and October this year and got 139 complete responses of 547 German business incubators, which is around 25% response rate. Why did we focus on a German context? In recent years, there's a large influx of both public and private money into the German business incubator entrepreneurial sector. Just last year, the German cabinet announced their first comprehensive startup strategy and are planning to mobilize up to 30 billion euro with private investors until 2030 to boost the development of innovation ecosystems. So that influx of money, of course, makes it interesting to study if their services contribute to their proper functioning. This is just to give you an idea of our sample. This is a map of the German business incubators that completed the questionnaires. So they are more or less throughout Germany. We see, of course, a bit more activity in the south and in the west, and less so in the east and north. Yeah. To give you an idea about our measures, the regional private and public knowledge was operationalized according to the location of the business incubator. So for example, here we have Stuttgart, DE 116, that is Stuttgart. And if a business incubator is located in Stuttgart, in this NUTS 3 regions, we took, for public knowledge, we took the public funding to universities and public research institutes as our measure of how much public knowledge is in this region. Of all these universities and research institutes that are in the NUTS 3 region of DE 116. For private knowledge, we took the R&D expenses incurred by private firms in the year of 2019, also of all private firms in this NUTS 3 region of DE 116. For our openness measures and the value capture measure, we, again, through this pre-testing, through these interviews, we found or defined practices that these incubators engage in to facilitate internal or external openness. For internal openness, it was 7 practices or 7 items. For external, it was 3 items. Internal, it was such as events, co-working area, a common work shop floor like a makerspace, if they had digital tools to facilitate knowledge exchanges, if they had peer coaching. And for external openness, it was events with external partners, connecting tenants with external partners, or actually helping them throughout the collaboration with an external partner. For each of these items, the managers of business incubators were always asked to evaluate the percentage of tenants using these services from a range of 0 to 100% in steps of 25%. So that gave us an indicator of 5 levels from 0%, 25, 50, 75, 100%. Our outcome was measured by 5 items in terms of how well business incubators contributed to tenant progress. For each of these items, the managers were asked to evaluate how well they exploited their potential in these 5 areas in the year of 2022, ranging again from 0 to 100% in steps of 25%. And yes, the overall constructs for internal openness, external openness, and contribution to tenant progress were operationalized by adding up the respective numbers. For example, external openness by adding up the responses to item 1, 2, and 3, and then dividing by the amount of practices that they engaged in. For example, if they only offered events with external partners, it was only divided by 1. Yeah. If they offered 2 of these items, it was divided by 2 to get an average score of external openness, internal openness, and business incubator value capture. Descriptive statistics, I will quickly only mention 2 things. One thing that I forgot earlier, and then the control variables. As you see here, we have the log variable of regional public and private knowledge. These variables were right skewed. So there was a lot of distribution in the lower levels, and a few had very high public and private knowledge. So to account for this not normal distribution of the variable, we log transformed them. Talking about the control variables, we controlled for the business incubator type, what type it was, who initiated, you could say initiated the business incubator, and if the business incubator had a sector focus, or if it allowed tenants from all kinds of different sectors. In terms, some more control variables were first the age, number of tenants, the services they offered, and the number of employees, full plus part-time. Now, some might think, looking at the max numbers for age, 53 years, tenants 735, and employees 680. If you look at the median numbers are in line with existing research on business incubator characteristics. The max numbers are a bit too high for some cases. That is the case, for example, for number of tenants. Some business incubators didn't differentiate between actively supporting tenants or just giving advice to one tenant or one startup once a year. Yeah. Number of employees, some business incubators didn't think of the employees only responsible for the business incubator, but also maybe employees for the university at large that is running the business incubator, or for the organization that is running the business incubator. And for age, specifically these municipality-initiated business incubators, which are also in earlier times like just technology parks that every city has in Germany, or most of the bigger cities, especially these ones have older business incubators because maybe they confuse the age of where they started their business incubator with when they started the technology park. Yes, that's it. Talking about the results, we have our control model where we only include the control variables, one model where we only have internal and external openness, and one model where we also include then the knowledge variables. We base our conclusion regarding internal and external openness on model 2. That is because in presence of an interaction with external openness, the interpretation of the main effect of external openness changes a bit, but that's a methodological thing. Yeah. First off, sample size, it's a bit less than 139. First off, we had to delete 7 because they were established later than July 2022, and that was our cutoff, our self-defined cutoff. And then thirdly, some business incubators didn't capture any value or didn't offer any internal or external openness. And of course, since they didn't have a value there, they were also excluded from the analysis. Talking about the adjusted R-squared quickly, or the model building, each model 2 is an improvement over model 1. We did log likelihood tests, log likelihood ratio tests, and model 3 is an improvement over model 2. Judging from the R-square of model 3, the adjusted R-square, 0.34, about 43% of the variance in the outcome variable, business incubators contribution to tenant progress, is explained by our variables in the model. Now, our results. First off, internal openness, we see it is significant. We're looking at the model 2, 0.271. Yeah. So that means to quantify this effect, a 1 unit increase in internal openness is associated with a 0.20271 increase in business incubators contribution to tenant progress. External openness is not significant. So we find support for hypothesis 1A. We do not find support for hypothesis 1B. Talking about our interaction or moderation effects, we do not find support for neither one of the two. Even contrary to our expectations, we found a negative effect of external openness with regional private knowledge, the log of regional private knowledge. Regional private knowledge itself, looking at this variable here, has a positive effect. Yeah? But the interaction effect with external openness is negative. To facilitate the interpretation of this interaction effect, here's a small figure. So here we have external openness, or the figure displays the effect of external openness on business incubators' contribution to tenant progress on the y-axis for different levels of regional and private knowledge. Both variables, that's why we have minus values for external openness, both variables are mean-centered, which means that the value 0 corresponds to their mean value in our sample. The 3 lines that you see here represent the mean of the log transformed regional private knowledge, that is medium. The mean -1 is the low, and the mean +1 is the high regional private knowledge. So here, what is evident in this figure is that with increasing levels of regional private knowledge, the effect of external openness on business incubators' contribution to tenant progress decreases. So higher regional private knowledge, the effect of external openness on the outcome decreases. Now, importantly, of course, the direct effect of external openness on the outcome is not significant, but the interaction effect plus the regional private knowledge direct effect is significant on the outcome. So that is something we did not expect. We expected directly the opposite. Coming to the discussion. So where does that leave us? First, as I mentioned earlier, qualitative and case study insights have proposed that for business incubators, it is beneficial to promote any kind of openness for their tenants, external openness, internal openness, because thereby the tenants can collaborate with other tenants or external actors, which can lead to valuable knowledge and resource exchanges. Promoting such collaborative environments of knowledge exchanges should be related to business incubators capturing value because their tenants are progressing better and faster. Our research is, as far as we know, the first to quantitatively test whether this facilitation of internal and external openness is actually beneficial for business incubators. Now, we find that business incubators capture more value when facilitating tenant networking, and this could indicate that these institutions benefit more or benefit from encouraging knowledge exchanges among like-minded people. Promoting external collaborations with established institutions, which are in a very different step of the organizational life cycle, might not be as beneficial for tenant progress. In comparison to internal openness, external openness might not be a one-size-fits-all solution like internal openness is. And external openness might be only helpful for a handful of tenants and slowing down the majority of them, which then leads to business incubators maybe not capturing value from promoting these services. Therefore, if business incubators promote external openness for all tenants, they run into the risk of spending a lot of resources on these external openness practices without actually capturing any value from it. Talking about this moderation effect of regional private knowledge on external openness, on the effect of external openness on the outcome. Now, contrary to our expectation, we find a significant negative effect of the moderation effect of regional private knowledge on the relation between external openness and business incubator value capture. There could be two reasons for that. First, research shows that R&D intensity of a region increases that region's attractiveness for new market entrants. This could potentially lead or also influence that region's competitive or competition intensity, because new market participants will compete for the same amount of regional knowledge spillovers. As a result, business incubators that promote external openness in a market environment of high private knowledge capture less value due to an increased competitiveness. So that is reason one. Reason two could be that business incubators that promote external openness in regions characterized by high private knowledge could potentially inflict more stressful situations for their tenants. If tenants are presented with a wide range of private actors to collaborate with and are promoted to do so, it could be associated with a less efficient decision-making process because of the abundance of potentially promising opportunities. Conversely, there are less opportunities in regions with only limited private knowledge, and it is more efficient for tenants to decide with whom to collaborate with. This in turn reduces the negative effect that regional private knowledge has on the relationship between external openness and the outcome if there is less private knowledge. So these are our interpretation of these findings. That already brings me to the end. Thank you for your attention, and if you have any questions or suggestions, I'm happy to hear them. Yes, thank you.